Thank you. Okay, good afternoon and welcome to the third Nursing Theory Forum, and it's sponsored by the American Academy of Nursing's expert panel on nursing theory guided practice. I'm Dr. Marlene Smith, the outgoing chair of the expert panel, and it is an honor to introduce Dr. Mary Jane Smith, a member of this expert panel and the co-author of the middle range theory called story theory. She'll be sharing the theory and its applications to research and practice with us this afternoon. So please stay muted during the presentation. Dr. Peggy Chin is assisting us with technology, and I want to thank her for being here and assisting us with everything to put this theory forum together. You all can post your comments and questions in the chat, and we will be monitoring, and we will have some time, hopefully, for you to address, for Dr. Smith to address your questions at the end, and possibly even you will have an opportunity to ask her a question directly. So let me introduce Dr. Mary Jane Smith. She is professor and director of special projects at the School of Nursing at West Virginia University. Dr. Smith is the co-editor of Middle Range Theories for Nursing, and she has co-authored or edited 3 other books: Nursing Theories, Qualitative Methods, Best Practices in Nursing Education, and Encyclopedia of Nursing Education. The first, second, and third editions of Middle Range Theories for Nursing were selected as AJN Books of the Year. In addition to these books, she's published close to 200 journal articles, chapters, and columns, many focused on nursing theory and theoretical issues. Dr. Smith received the Long-Form Scholarship Award from West Virginia University, the annual Lifelong Contributions to Nursing Award by the West Virginia Nurses Association, and she is a fellow in the American Academy of Nursing. Dr. Smith has been responsible, I think this is amazing, she's been responsible for teaching nursing theory to over 1,700 master's, DNP, and PhD students over the years. That's incredible. And I'm so fortunate to be one of those students. And so I am forever grateful to her for getting me started those many years ago along this path. I have learned so much from her over the years, and I'm sure this presentation will be enlightening for all of us. So now I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Smith.
All right. Well, I thank you, Marlene. Do we need to have my face up here? What do we need to do to get my
slide? Do you want the slides up?
No, I would like my face up.
Okay, well, you're on, so anybody that I think anybody can adjust to speaker view to see just you. Oh. If we go to speaker view for Zoom, we can see you.
Okay. I better let the technology go, because that is best when I am in charge. So I am not in charge. Marlene and Peggy are in charge, and Peggy has graciously agreed to do the slides. They are just topical slides. So let us go on then. Again, I thank you, Marlene, and know everyone that I am pleased to be with you at this theory forum to talk about story theory, how it has been created, what it is, and how it can be applied. So here, this PowerPoint is the right one we have up here now. This PowerPoint shows you the plan that we will go through today. First, I'm going to talk with you about the background and development of story theory. Secondly, I'm going to talk with you about the disciplinary foundations through the works of Martha Rogers and Margaret Newman. Then I'm going to talk with you about the theory, what it is, the major constituents, the assumptions, the concepts, and the model. And then lastly, I'm going to talk with you about application in research and practice. So we can close off the PowerPoint now. And let me talk to you just a bit about story. As it is well known, story is a dimension of the human environment process. Telling stories has been with us since human beings began engaging with each other. Through story, traditions and connections with family and community are passed on from generation to generation. Now, the purpose of story theory, that I'm going to talk with you about today, is only a glimpse into this larger idea of story. What we did was to put a theoretical structure on gathering health stories for research and practice. My colleague, Pat Lear, and I have been working together on this theory for over 20 years. It is and has been a collaborative effort. Now, story is a middle range theory that was developed from practice and research experience. I was researching the lived experience of being pregnant with students who were in high school. Stories were gathered by sitting with these young women in a quiet room at the high school and inviting them to tell me what it was like to be pregnant and attend school. It seemed that when asking them about something that really mattered, the stories flowed. In that, there was a pouring forth from them on a matter that was really important. The story was gathered in a 50-minute school period, and when the bell rang and time was up, they commented that time had gone by so quickly. Now, time passing quickly was an indication that these young women were immersed in the story. And so these early stories were the starting place for generating this middle range theory. At the same time, Pat Lear was gathering stories from persons who were beginning cardiac rehabilitation. And as she and I talked about what was going on, we decided to name the phenomenon as a middle range theory. In thinking about our research and practice experiences over time, we decided to call the theory attentively embracing story. The participants embraced their story about what was truly important to them, giving full attention to it while in the presence with one who was attentively listening and guiding them into and through the story. The theory as attentively embracing story was first published in 1999 and was then changed. We changed the name. We said that is too long. We changed the name to Story Theory. And that came out in the 2018 edition of the Middle Range Theory book. So going forward, we go with story theory. So could we have the disciplinary foundations PowerPoint, please, my dear Peggy? Here we go. The next one, Peggy. There, no, right there. There we go. Right there we are. Okay. Story theory is tethered to the disciplinary foundations of nursing through the works of Martha Rogers and Margaret Newman. I was blessed to have these two wise teachers who inspired and guided me in my doctoral scholarly work. So we can either keep that up or we could just take it off, Peggy. You can see, folks, that I'm not a big user of PowerPoint. You go, oh, everything on the PowerPoint. No, I use topical PowerPoint, and that's the way we're going. So now, disciplinary foundations. Martha Rogers, The Science of Unitary Human Beings. Rogers' science of unitary human beings proposes that people are integral, one with a larger world of resonating energy field process. The energy field process is irreducible and unitary. And in this unitary process of resonating energy, people experience the stories of their life. In this unitary process of resonating energy process, people experience the stories of their life. What I am saying is story is lived as a happening in the mutual energy field process of persons with their world. This happening is an all at once, all that is transpiring in the emerging story. All that is transpiring means that there is more than what can be made explicit in the story. The happening of lived story involves both explicit and tacit awareness. Explicit is that which can be put into words, and tacit is that which is unspoken and held silently. When persons tell their story with another who is intentionally present, awareness is expanded. It's a major idea. When persons tell their story with another who is intentionally, mutually present, awareness is expanded. It follows that in the mutual energy field process of story, there is expanding awareness. So from the science of unitary human beings, I am drawing on the ideas of mutual energy field process, where there is expanding awareness. Now, Margaret Newman defined the focus of the discipline of nursing as caring in the human health experience, grounded in the unitary transformative paradigm. Story is a human health experience. Story is a human health experience where persons relate in a mutual transforming process that transcends time and space. Thus, the human health experience of story emerges as thoughts, values, and choices are recollected, remembered, and anticipated in the unfolding mutual process. Now, the views of Rogers and Newman are integrated in the following proposition as a disciplinary foundation for story theory. Let's have the next PowerPoint, Peggy. This should be proposition. That's this one right here. I'm going to show it to you. Next one, Peggy. There we go. There's the proposition. So this is what I have pulled from Martha Rogers and Margaret Newman as a disciplinary perspective for story theory. Story is a human health experience lived in the mutual energy field process as expanding awareness. Human health experience lived in that mutual resonating energy field process of persons with their world as awareness is expanded. Okay, you can, so when I'm taking from Rogers is expanding awareness as a human energy field process of people and their world. And from Newman, the human health experience as a perspective on human health, viewed in the reality of the person's perspective. Okay, Peggy, we can go to the next PowerPoint now. Next PowerPoint is going to show, well, no, we missed one, Peggy. Major constituents. The one above the concepts of the, now next, what's next, Peggy? Let's just go out of the PowerPoints and then we'll grab this one when we need it. Okay, so what I'm going to talk with you now is about the major constituents of the theory. The major constituents are assumptions, concepts, and model. Now, let's start with, go back to that assumptions. Peggy, you were right. Peggy had it right. Go back to the assumptions. These are the assumptions. There we go. Thank you, Peggy. These are the assumptions that are drawn from that proposition, the assumptions of the theory. In the narrative happening of a health story, the narrative happening is telling of it, persons change while interrelating in a vast array of flowing connected dimensions. This assumption is about energy field process and grounds sensitivity to the complexity of entangled health story dimensions as persons move with, through, and beyond the unfolding story. Second assumption is that persons live an expanded awareness where life events are transformed in living the everyday and beyond. This assumption on expanded awareness describes how telling one's unique story about something that really matters can be transforming. The third assumption, persons experience meaning as resonating awareness. Persons experience meaning as a resonating awareness in the creative unfolding of human potential. This assumption about creative unfolding supports the human propensity to create meaning through expanding awareness of thoughts, feelings, behavior, bodily experience, all in the rhythm of the unfolding story. So those are the assumptions of the theory. And so we can go to the next PowerPoint now. There we go. You have the assumptions of the theory. These are the concepts of the theory. According to story theory, story is a narrative happening of connecting with self in relation through intentional dialogue to create ease. A narrative happening connecting with self in relation through intentional dialogue to create ease. Now, there are three concepts here. You see them: self in relation, intentional dialogue, and creating ease. So now we could just get out of this PowerPoint, Peggy, and we'll I'll talk with you about these concepts. Intentional dialogue is the mutual process between person and nurse. The mutual process between the person and nurse, which centers on touching that which matters once, that which matters most to the one sharing the story about a health challenge, that which matters most to the person sharing the story about a health challenge. It is being mindfully attentive as a way of being present to the evolving story from the person's perspective. Intentional dialogue centers on being with as true presence, which is a non-judgmental, rhythmical, focusing, refocusing with the other, which is open to what is, what was, and what can be, all from the person's perspective. Nothing can be assumed about the story. Only the person who is telling knows the depth and details of it. Therefore, the story is never finished. There is always more to the story, including parts that the person may not want to tell. The nurse in true presence stays with the longing to tell and the desire to tell only so much at a time. So now that was the one concept, intentional dialogue. Now is connecting with self in relation, second concept. And these concepts do not hang out individually, they're all interrelated. Connecting with self in relation is the active process of recognizing self as related with others in an unfolding story. Personal history is uncovered when persons reflect on who they are, where they have come from, and where they are going in life, recollecting their story. In the story, the person becomes present to what is known and unknown, allowing unrecognized meaning to surface. And so this person is making the story known to self as well as to the nurse who is listening and hearing the story. It is that both are getting this glimpse into the story. The third concept is creating ease. Creating ease is an energizing release experience as story moments, events, perspectives come together as expanding awareness. Ease is resonating energy, enabling expanded awareness, even for only a moment. It can be a powerful moment, creating possibilities for human development. Okay, Peggy, now we're going to the model. Here we go. We're going to the model. I'm going to show you the model. Next, there we go. There's the model. This is the theory model, story theory model. You see, it says, you see the concept, connecting with self in relation through intentional dialogue to create ease. And you see how we're trying with those bold lines to pull everything together. Now, the model also includes the concepts of story that are traditional dimensions of a generic story. These traditional dimensions are complicating, developmental, and resolving processes. The complicating process focuses on a health challenge that is pursued through intentional dialogue. The developmental process is composed of the story plot, a thread that connects the storyteller to self in relationship with meaningful others. And the resolving process has the potential to create ease when the storyteller shifts views, thus enabling progression to a new understanding, which is identified as movement toward resolving the health challenge. So now if you look at the model, you see it has both the concepts and those developmental aspects from story, connecting the self in relation on the developing story plot through intentional dialogue about a complicating health challenge and moving toward resolving and creating ease. So I have talked with you about story as a human health experience, lived in the mutual energy field process as expanding awareness that is grounded in the works of Rogers and Newman. Story is defined as connecting with self in relation through intentional dialogue to create ease. So this brings us to some talk with you about what has been done with the theory in application. And we're first, you can just put this next PowerPoint up quickly, Peggy. It just says application research, just to show us where we are. This is a little bit before this. We will go to practice application, but right now we're going to be, that's okay. We'll just let this go for now, Peggy. We'll come back to where we need to be. Okay, we don't want this right now. I want to talk with you a little bit before we get to this. Okay, here we go. Now we're talking about research application of this story theory. 22 studies using story theory have been published over the past 15 years. 8 have been published over the past 5 years. Some of the human health experiences studied include living with catastrophic loss, suffering from headache, managing the challenge of diabetes, losing a child, and mothering while in a substance use disorder program. This is the last study that we have done, and I would like to now talk with you some about this study on mothering while in a substance use disorder program. I am going to read you a story from the research study with mothers who were in a substance use disorder program. The story was gathered in a face-to-face meeting centered on intentional dialogue between the nurse researcher and the mother, focusing on the complicating health challenge of mothering while in a substance use disorder program. The dialogue was recorded, transcribed, and reconstructed in the story that I am going to tell you. This story is in the words of the mother. So I invite you now to listen. Here's what I would invite you to listen for: connecting with self in relation and ease. So now just sit back and listen to this. If I get a little taste of water. This mother feels that things are going well, that she is on track for where she is in her life, even though she is not exactly where she wants to be. When her youngest child starts school, she plans to further her education. Her family unit includes her grandmother, an aunt, and uncle. They help her with her children when she is working at night. The children stay all night with one of the family members, and she picks them up in the morning. She does not think the routine is ideal because she would like to spend more time in the evening with her children. She does not see the present situation as permanent because she is not yet where she would like to be in life. What matters most to her about mothering is to give her children a life with healthy relationships in which they are happy and not exposed to trauma. She faces a challenge in day-to-day mothering in that childcare can be stressful. She tries to work around everyone's schedule. That gets difficult and does not flow easily. Her grandmother is older, and caring for 2 children is not easy. In addition, finances are super stressful. She works 5 to 6 nights a week, and the hours are hard. As a waitress, she does not have a guaranteed paycheck every week. She doesn't always know if she's going to make ends meet, and she has no other source of finances. She does everything on her own. She prioritizes bills so she can get by. She makes it work, and at times steps back to tell herself it is going to be all right. She gets food stamps and doesn't worry about her kids going to bed hungry or that they will not have lunch to take to school. Her grandmother is most supportive by helping her with the children and making everything work. She has been with her through the lowest of lows, and she keeps her on track. The children keep her present, and she is less likely to go back to what she was doing in active addiction. She knows what she has and how easy it is to lose it. Her oldest child is fabulous in school, and her second child is very smart. This makes her feel good to know she is doing something right. Her mothering experience began several months after she graduated from high school. Her pregnancy was fabulous, and she did not worry about anything. It is not that she did not want to be a mom, but she wanted to be a kid too. And that's how she started using drugs. During this time, she lived with her grandmother and viewed herself as a part-time mother. When she wanted to leave, she could, because her grandmother stepped in and took care of her child. The situation changed when she became pregnant with her second child, and she realized her life on drugs was awful. She decided to get help because active addiction was like hell every day. Getting pregnant changed her, and she had a second chance with her second child. She got into a clinic with therapy and meetings, which held her accountable. One day it clicked. She knew she could not go back to what she was doing. The baby was perfect, which eased everything. In the future, she wants things to get better, go to school, and be able to work while her children are in school. She does not know what educational path she will take. She wants work that is financially stable, so she won't have to worry about setbacks because of money. She takes care of herself by going to therapy appointments and finds them beneficial. She tries to do something for herself, like sitting down and reading a book. Taking time for herself is important, and she doesn't get it very often. She is 24/7. Go, go, go. This wears her down, and she feels as though she is on the edge. She believes there is a huge stigma with moms in recovery. Even though she is in a Suboxone program, she doesn't believe this makes her any different from any other mother. She doesn't want to be defined as a mother in recovery. She is a mother with struggles, just like everyone else. In addition, she experiences stigma in a small town where everyone knows her business. She believes she must work super hard to be a good mom because she is compared to other people. When she is having a hard time, she is questioned about relapsing. It is like she's not allowed to have a bad day. She is grateful to be in recovery and doing what she is presently doing. It is hard to talk about being in active addiction. However, to talk about where she is going is more powerful than where she has been in the past. So that is a story from this research study. This was a phenomenological study having the research question, what is the structure of meaning of the lived experience of mothers in a substance use disorder program? Now, Peggy, we can put up that PowerPoint about the human health experience of mothers. This is a nice PowerPoint because there we go, great. The human health experience of mothers in a substance use disorder program includes, these were the findings of the study. Includes the human health experience is living the tensions of the everyday. The human health experience is being pressured in mother, family, community relationships. The human health experience is reflecting on moving forward. Now, living the tensions of the everyday for these mothers was having added demands of a substance use disorder recovery program that contributes to a complex life that can be overwhelming since it never ends. It requires a plan for living day-to-day responsibilities by establishing routines, schedules, essential for staying in recovery. Being pressured in mother-family community relationships for these mothers requires support of others, even though supportive relationships, while necessary, can be frustrating and demand tolerance. Judgment is encountered about being defined as a mother who is untrustworthy, different, and not good. This is hard to escape because it is encountered most everywhere. Reflecting on moving forward is acknowledging the decision to commit to a substance use disorder program that is driven by the fear of losing children. Keeping children happy and healthy is the inspiration to stay in recovery and enable a future vision for a better life for her and her children. Okay, so what I am proposing is that these findings represent the lived experience of being a mother in a substance use disorder program. The findings could be applied as a structure for a practice model for mothers in recovery programs. The practice implications include being truly present with these mothers, acknowledging the complexities of the day-to-day challenge and the difficulties faced while in recovery, with a centered attention to be present with them from their point of view, from their experience. This practice could facilitate caring in the human health experience, as health would be promoted for both the mothers and for their children. Now, this study was recently published, and at the end, I will give you a reference list, and I'll show you where it is. So now we can go out of this one, Peggy, and we'll just go no PowerPoint. and I'll just talk with you. Now, the studies published to date have mostly been qualitative. My colleague Pat Lear has spearheaded the development of an ease instrument. This is a 20-item measure of ease that has content validity and alpha reliability. We are working on beginning use of this measure, and at the end, I will give you the citation for the ease instrument. So now that brings us to practice. Now, as Marlene told you, I have been teaching theory for many, many years to many, many students. And with graduate students, in teaching them theory, we first get into the theory, what it is about, understanding what it is. And then I invite them to write about it. What is it you hear in this theory? What is it that you could take to your practice? And so I invite them to write about the theory and how it can be, or how you are applying it in your practice. Now, here again, I'm going to read you a story. I'm going to read you a story written by an advanced practice nurse in a rural clinic. Now, here again, sit back and listen. I invite you to listen for, remember what story is, connecting with self in relation to intentional dialogue to create ease. I invite you to listen for those concepts as I read you this story. A little bit of water. This is a story written by a nurse in the master's program who is learning about, she worked in a rural primary clinic and wrote the following about using theory to guide practice. This is she's telling this story that I'm going to read to you. Here's what she says. The day at the clinic began like any other day. I had been working in the small rural outpatient mental health center for about 2 years. That Tuesday, like most Tuesday clinic days, was very hectic. On that day, the doctor arrived as usual. I screened the first patient, placing him in room 1 and leaving the chart in the hold outside the door. Then I hurriedly checked the next name on the schedule, looking for the chart to match. Hurry, hurry, hurry. The glass window between me and the packed waiting area was insulating. It kept the patients as numbers, as services to be delivered, get them in and get them out. I grabbed a chart and rushed to the open door, calling the name of patient number 2. Gladys, Gladys, Gladys. No answer, no Gladys. Oh, well, I was almost ready to call the next name. Then I heard a peck on the window. I glanced up and saw a man staring straight at me. What was he saying? Talk through the hole in the glass, I told him. She won't come in, he said. She's in the truck and she won't come in. I was puzzled. Who won't come in? I asked. Gladys. She's in the truck and she won't come in. Maybe it was the look on his face. Maybe it was curiosity. I don't know. But for some reason, I went to the door and let him in. I knew him. Mr. Green was the owner of a small grocery store in the next town. His wife, Gladys, always stayed in the back of the store unless he yelled loudly for her to come up front and help with the customer. Gladys was on lithium to control manic depressive episodes. She never seemed to say much in her visits, usually just came in, had her blood drawn for the lithium level, got a prescription and left. Her husband did the talking for her. On that day, he stood there telling me that Gladys would not get out of the truck, that she didn't want to come into the clinic, and that he had found her lithium hidden under a pillow on the sofa. He told me that she has been so withdrawn, has refused meals with the family, and wouldn't even speak with their children. So that was the situation. There I was, with 24 patients waiting to see the doctor. Only one patient screamed and Gladys out in the truck on the back parking lot. So I told Mr. Green that he would need to make another appointment and try again next week. He said, okay, and asked if he could at least get some medicine without her blood sample being drawn, without seeing the daughter. Of course, that was against our policy. No office visit, no blood draw, no prescription. Defeated, Mr. Green turned and began to walk away. Maybe it was the way he put his head down, the way his shoulders were slumped in defeat, or maybe I was just fed up with being made to rush these patients through like herding animals. Whatever it was, I called to him. Where is she? She's out in the truck at the corner of the back parking lot. In my mind, I began to make Gladys's needs my total nursing priority for that moment in time. I started to imagine how I could use my total nursing priority for that moment in time. I started to imagine how I could use whatever I had to meet her needs, whatever they turned out to be. I thought about why she was in the truck, why she wouldn't come in. I began to envision a different approach, wherein the patient could see that I wanted to be there with her and for her, to engage her thoughts and feelings. Well, I thought, if the patient won't come to the visit must go to the patient. I went back to my office, grabbed my lab kit. I knew that Gladys needed a blood test to check her lithium level before the doctor would adjust her dosage. But I also knew Gladys needed something else, something from me that I could not name at the moment, and I was really willing to risk all to care for her. I quickly stuck my head in the doctor's office and said, there's a patient in room 1 and the charts for the others are stacked in order. You will have to screen the patients today. I am going out to see Gladys. Gladys who? He asked. Gladys, the patient who won't come in, I replied. He looked puzzled. I walked out with Mr. Green and said, would you mind giving us some time out here alone? Mr. Green nodded and headed back into the building. As I approached the red truck in the corner of the parking lot, I saw that although it was 70 degrees, Gladys had her window rolled up. Her dark glasses and black wool sweater made her look like some kind of a movie starlet. I sat the lab kit down on the pavement and tapped on the window. She moved to the other side of the truck, not looking directly at me. Knowing I was there, I tapped again. Gladys, it's me, Mrs. James, the nurse. I'm here for your appointment. I don't want to go for my appointment. I told Jim I'm not coming in. I don't need medicine. I don't need to go in. You don't have to go in. I'm out here so that you don't have to go in. Do you see that? Jim told you I didn't take those pills, didn't he? Yes, he did. Do you want to talk about it? She moved closer to the window, cracked it slightly and said, I feel so sad. I hate my life. I can see how sad you are. I can listen to you if you want me to. I can stand out here in the parking lot in the hot sun and talk with you about what is going on, if that is what you want. She took off her glasses and looked right at me, her eyes swollen from crying. She was sad, so very sad. We talked about her sadness and what was going on with her at home. Then I said, Gladys, I decided that if you do not want to come into the clinic, I would just bring it out here to you. Will you let me take your blood? We will need to find out more what is going on with you. That is when she looked straight at me and stared for what seemed like a long time, and for which I stayed quiet. Then she said, Nurse, you are crazier than I am, out here in the middle of a parking lot, wanting to draw someone's blood. I looked at her and laughed. It was a little absurd, I guess. Me and Gladys out in that parking lot, laughing at nothing really, laughing at me, laughing together. But I don't think Gladys had laughed in a long time. And come to think of it, neither had I. So on that different kind of Tuesday, I stood in the sun in a parking lot, laughing with my patient, drawing her blood while juggling tubes in a most precarious manner. It may have seemed strange to some observers, but it was the most wonderful therapeutic way of taking care of this patient at this particular moment in time. So this story is about connecting with self in relation through intentional dialogue to create ease. There was connecting with self in relationship with Gladys, Mr. Green, and the nurse about what was going on with them as the story developed. In the story, you witnessed the nurse in mutual presence with Gladys, both Gladys and her husband, about what mattered most. The nurse lived being mindfully attentive with Gladys as the story of the complicating health challenge evolved. Ease was created for both nurse and Gladys in moving to resolve the health challenge. So, look at our time, we moved along here. So in conclusion, I thank you for this opportunity to talk with you about story theory. The proposition underpinning the story is that story is a human health experience of mutual and creative unfolding, lived as expanding awareness. Thus, the study, practice, and research guided by story theory contributes to the substantive body of theoretical knowledge specific to nursing. And so now, Peggy, if you would just take us through that reference list at the end, and then I want to just show those to you and just tell you what they are. Just keep going, there we go. There, that 1999 paper is that first paper where it was called Attentively Embracing Story. And then next you have the 2018, this is the fourth edition of the story of the Middle Range Theory book where it was story theory. And then you have a 2020 article claiming the narrative way with story theory is where we make the case for story as a dimension of the human health experience and significant to nursing science. That was that. And then this next one here, you see 2021, mothering a child while in a substance use disorder program. That's where you can get more details about that study that I read you one of the mother's stories. And then the last one is this article on measuring ease, content validity, and early reliability. So, okay, again, I thank you. Let's go to Marlene.
Okay, thank you so much, Mary Jane. That was wonderful. I really was moved by those stories. And so we have a couple questions. I'm going to begin with mine since I was thinking about this. You know, we're always challenged when we're teaching theory to help the students learn and bring it from that abstract down to their practice, you know, so that it's meaningful to them. And I wondered, in the story, the student created this story that you read. Did she make the links to the theory, or did you help her to do that?
Yeah. First of all, she was in one of those many courses that I taught, and we do middle range theories in those methods, and we do story theory. So we go through pretty much the way I went through with you, how the story was created, what are the major constituents, what are the assumptions, what are the disciplinary perspectives. So students come to class they have a theory a week, and so they come to class with questions about what is the meaning of those assumptions, and then we talk about that. Then we go into the concepts. So they get lessons, if you will, on the theory, and then they're told to go out and think about it, and in a couple of weeks write back to me about the story that now that you know about this practice, Some students say, well, they already live this in practice, and they probably do. You see, but when they hear it, you see, they didn't know it before they heard it, which is enlightening, you see. I think it makes people more cognizant of it and the importance of it, and how it is about nursing is caring in the human health experience, which is why we came into nursing and what we have to be reminded of every now and then.
Yes, thank you. We have a question from Dr. Savina Schonifer, and I don't know, Savina, if you would like to ask the question directly by unmuting, or I can read it, but it might be nice.
Would be nice. I would like to see.
Okay, thank you very much.
There you
Thank
are.
you for this beautiful opportunity. As you were talking and reading stories and giving, some of the theoretical content, I was thinking the word storying as a label for the process of co-creating the meaning
Sure.
of reflected lived experience. Have you ever used that term, or would that be accurate or not?
Sure, we haven't. We've thought about it. We've thought about it. Is it a process of storying, or is it a process of intentional dialogue? See, that's what you have to be careful, that you stay with these essential or intentional dialogue is the heart of the matter. You see, that's how these stories unfold. It's because when you're with that person, with attentive presence of what matters most. So, but I do hear what you're saying, and that concept storying is in the literature. Yeah.
Interesting. Savina, I love the quote that you put in the chat about.
What she said.
It's a chat. She has a quote in the chat from Flannery O'Connor, the author, and you want to share it with us? I love it. I think it's.
I don't know if I can find it. Let's see.
Oh, I can read it if you don't.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Marlene, you read it.
So she's sharing, Mary Jane, this quote from Flannery O'Connor, and it is, "There is a certain embarrassment about being a storyteller in these times, when stories are considered not quite as satisfying as statements, and statements are not quite as satisfying as statistics. But in the long run, a people is known not by its statements or its statistics, but by the stories it tells."
Yeah. Because in the story, remember I said, in the story is the meaning of our lives, you see. It's what matters most to us. And that is quite lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. And we have some more messages here. Let me see. Yeah. See. So Peggy is asking. Peggy, do you want to ask her directly?
You have to take your mute off, Peggy. You have to hear. There you go.
Yeah, my comment is that I really like the concept of ease. Could you talk a bit more about why you chose this particular word?
Right. Why did we choose ease? Well, remember those traditional elements of story, that moving to resolving. Resolving, we thought, comes with some kind of a sense of ease. And we also find that when we talk in those early times with those young women who were pregnant, when we talked with them about their story, they would say, it was good to tell it. They would say, I never told it like this to anyone before. And so you had the sense that there was something comforting about that, maybe only for a moment, you see. So that that is how we have come. And you heard in the mother story, and you heard in the practice story that there is that sense of ease, and not every story you gather there may not be, but there are moments of ease, even just for the moment, you see.
Yeah, to me, it kind of, brought up the idea of comfort, but comfort doesn't quite get at what, to me, ease implies. It's because many times the stories that we tell are not comfortable stories. They're not, everything is hunky-dory and nice in the world. They're very difficult, but the ease of telling them, the fact that somebody is able to tell them from their heart, to really relate it, is, to me, the term ease does get more to what I think that I can sense in your theory.
Yes, and your point about, they're not comfortable because these are about complicating health challenges that really matter to the person. In gathering these mother stories, some of them cried in the midst of their story. And we say, do you want to continue? And they say, oh yes, because it's good to tell it. You see, it's good to tell it. And it could also be good to cry. You see? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There
Okay.
are a couple comments. One is from Wyona Freistenson, and she said that she follows your work in articles and books, and she encourages her students who are doing phenomenological studies to ask for stories during semi-structured interviews. And these stories provide great insight into human experience. So she's thanking you for story theory.
Can she talk to me?
Where are
Show
Wyona?
me her face. I like to see. I like to see faces.
Hi, Dr. Smith.
Oh, hello.
It's just an
Hello.
incredible honor to meet you. And yes, I've purchased your texts and gone into great depth of story theory. And,
What
and I
school are
agree
you?
with
Wyoming. What school are you with?
Oh, I'm with Texas Women's University, Dr. Smith.
Oh, how nice. How very nice. Well, I thank you. I thank you. If you need if you wonder about anything about it, if you're students, you just email me. You say, I'm Wyona member. I was at that theory forum. That's what you say. Okay.
All right. Maybe if we could get Dr. Smith's email in the chat, that would be great.
Sure. Gee, Mary Jane, your email.
Okay, here's what it is. MJ Smith put it in at HSC, that stands for Health Science Center, at hsc.wvu.edu. Okay,
I got it, I think.
Well, Dr. Smith, expect to have an email. One thing I do every summer is encourage, I teach scholarship, and I encourage our young PhD students to reach out to a scholar. So we'll put you on the list.
Okay, very good.
And Timothy Sowitz is saying that thank you. Throughout your presentation, I thought of Bloomer's symbolic interactionism and its premise that humans act toward things based on what they mean to them. Interesting to think about the meaning people ascribe to storytelling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Schoenhofer says ease is an expression of caring in the human health experience.
For sure.
Yeah.
Lovely, very lovely.
So we've come to the end. We're now a little bit after 3 o'clock. And Mary Jane, thank you so much. This was a wonderful presentation, and so great to have it as our third nursing theory forum for the expert panel. So thank you, and thank you all for attending.